Hello out there, and today we have an initial impressions and overview video for this Spyderco Chapparral with the Raffir Noble handle scales. And this is a knife that was near the top of my most anticipated knives of 2017 for a couple reasons. The first obviously being that these handle scales are extremely unique and just really neat looking, and always wanted to get them on camera from the moment I heard about this knife. But the other, more important reason actually is that I'd never owned a Chapparral before, and I'd wanted to. And this is just a really neat looking model, and while it does resemble a number of other Spyderco models just in basic design and structure, I'd never had one and wanted one, and I was just never able to because of how prohibitive the cost of some of the really nice step titanium versions were. So when this one came out at the $125, $130 price range, it was definitely more agreeable and accessible for me, and I was able to pick it up, and really happy that I did, because this knife is absolutely the epitome of what a gentleman's folder should be. All right, like I said, never had a Chapparral before, so I can't really speak about the other ones, but the way that this knife is put together and just the overall build and the structure of it, it is what I would want a gentleman's carry to be. That said, I do have a gentleman's carry video that I'll be posting in a couple days that this knife isn't in because I didn't have it when I filmed that video, so go figure. But let's get into the specs so I can tell you why I feel that way about it, and then we'll definitely spend a few minutes near the end of the video probably, which is where I usually talk about ergonomics and handle scales anyway, really showing off the Raffir aspect of the scales. So what I will do actually is just annotate down below to where that starts, because I'm guessing that a big draw for a lot of people will just be those scales. So you can skip all the rest of it and get to those scales if you want to. All right, but getting into the specs, what we have is a blade length of just under 2.5 inches when it comes to the cutting edge of CTS XHP. It is really nicely and thinly flat ground, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then the overall length is just shy of 6.5 inches. When we're talking about the weight, it comes in at a very nice weight for a gent's carry. If I can get the scale over here, at 2.31 ounces. All right, so really agreeable, lightweight, sleek. You can see how thin it is as well. So just very nice overall when it comes to that. We have the pretty standard Spyderco jimping up top and then also down below. And then moving back, you can see a back lock. This is a very strong back lock, just really strong. Loud snap when it engages, which I really like. So structurally very sound here. No even hint of play at all in any direction, which I really like. And then we have a 2-position pocket clip. It is tip up only with this really nice loop over deep carry wire clip. We do have some skeletonizing on the liners. Just because of how thin the knife is, it might be hard to catch that. Maybe you can see, oh, there we go. You can probably see in there. But one thing that's really cool that I'll touch upon again when we get to the scales is you can actually see right here the milling of the liners through the epoxy of the scales. So a really neat aspect of the knife, visually at least. All right, but getting back to the blade, the CTS XHP is just a really impressive steel for me. It's one that I've always liked. It's made by Carpenter. It is a powdered steel, so just structurally very sound and retains its edge extremely well. I've heard quite a few steels be compared to a stainless version of D2, and this is one of them. A lot of people say that about XHP, so edge retention, generally speaking, is very good with this steel. Looking at the blade stocks, though, and I'm bringing in a Spyderco Ambitious because we do have a somewhat similar size for these knives, you can see the stock of the Chapparral is a lot thinner than the beefy Ambitious, which makes this Chapparral just an extremely good slicer, excuse me. Just really keen edge out of the box. And I'm bringing in a Domino as well. I'm sorry, this is the Dragonfly. Bringing in the Dragonfly as well. And you can see the blade length for the Chapparral is significantly longer, but the blade stock is a lot more similar, even though we have some rounding on the Dragonfly spine here. So what that basically means is that with this XHP, you are just going to have super slicing performance. So especially for most gentlemen's carry tasks, this is going to be exceptional. And I've said before in videos that I don't really remark on the sharpness of a knife out of the box in a video unless it's really good or really bad. I just assume generally that a knife is going to be sharp out of the box, and if I don't talk about it on camera, that means that it is pretty sharp out of the box. This knife I have to talk about because it is just wicked. And there's no way for me to really explain through a cut test how this knife feels slicing through paper, but it is just so thin that it glides through in a way that very few knives that I've owned slice out of the box. I mean, just wonderfully done. Every part of this edge is extremely sharp and slices really well. Whether it's a straight cut, a push cut, a drag cut, everything. I mean, it's just done really well in the light testing that I've used it with. So extremely impressed with that. And my big curiosity is going to be how that edge holds up since it is so thin. But again, that really good quality steel should help with that and should really make that no problem, at least I'm hoping. All right, so let's move on back to ergonomics, which will transition us to our handle scales. So the jimping here is pretty good, but honestly, I've seen some Spydercos with better jimping. I'm going to try to zoom in. I'm going to bring the Dragonfly back in one more time, because there are some knives from Spyderco that just have excellent jimping, like this Dragonfly and the paramilitaries, and then other ones that just have pretty good jimping, but not that great. And I'm going to try to leave it focused here, so maybe you can see a difference in the teeth. And yeah, you can see on the Chapparral up above, just a little bit more shallow when it comes to the jimping than the Dragonfly, which is deeper and grips the thumb just a little bit better. So yeah, that's sort of just the way it is. Good jimping, but not great from the Chapparral. But that said, very comfortable in the hand. No issues with it in the hand whatsoever. Because it's small, it's going to fit in like one position or two like this and not really slide because it locks in really well, at least in this grip. So for most of the things you're going to need this small EDC to be, it's going to work out just fine. Alright, so last few minutes of the video, let's just take a look at these scales and just how impressive they are. And what we have here is an epoxy resin that is transparent, and inside of it there are copper and bronze rose patterns that are dropped into that clear resin, and then the handle is basically shaved and cut and polished. And what you have is this 3D kind of looking material. And it's just awesome. It just looks so awesome. I mean, you can see so much detail into the workings of the knife. If you look near the pivot here, it's just really impressive. It also does show fingerprints, as you can see, and it reflects a ton of light. You can see the milling on the, on the liners in here, which is really awesome. And then you can also see the hardware for the liners set beneath the scales. So just really cool. Really cool. The stop pin here as well. I mean, just very impressive kind of look. I mean, just there's no way for me to really explain this unless you hold it in your hands. And I try to take pictures of this, and I've been posting pictures of this knife, and it just doesn't do it justice. You need to see it either on camera or in person in order to just see how unique this is. As far as functionality, it's smooth. I mean, it's smooth. It's not going to be really all that slick, but it is smooth. You're not going to get a lot of traction, but thankfully in a smaller folder, like I said, with the way that it locks in, shouldn't be that big of a deal. All right. Yeah, the 3D aspect though, I'm just going to show one more time where the pocket clip on the other side would go, because you can see, you can see deep down into the actual scale itself. So yeah, just really impressed with that, obviously, as you can tell. Other aspects of it though, the one big concern with it is that I think it's going to scratch, and it's sort of disappointing, but I think, with use, you are going to see some wear and some scratches. And I'm trying to to get it on camera, and I don't think you can see it, but there's already one little scratch, like a hairline scratch right here, just from me carrying it the other day, and I'm not sure how this actual look is going to hold up over time if this is something you were to carry on a regular basis. So definitely keep that in mind if you were looking into to getting it. I mean, I think this will just be more of an occasional carry for me, like a gents folder, carry it every now and then. But again, I mean, this is one that it feels like it is built to be used. You know, this isn't one that's meant to be hidden away just because of how strong and like the integrity of the blade. Just structurally a very, very solid knife. So not one that you do need to hide away, but if you are worried about taking care of these scales, you might want to be a little bit careful with it. One last thing in this video is just the fit and finish of this knife is excellent. Fit and finish is just wonderful, really nice and flush with all of the liners, and then a good polish on them also. So really happy overall with this knife. Can't wait to carry it more, get a little bit more use on it. I probably will be doing a follow-up when it comes to how the edge holds up, so I'm really curious about that. But any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. Definitely want to hear from you when it comes to that stuff. And yeah, I look forward to talking with you soon. I think I'm just about out of time in my on my camera, so I do have to end the video here, but I will be talking with you soon, folks. Thanks again. Take care.